The Meg surprised everyone this summer and made a much bigger splash than anticipated. The film was full of giant shark mayhem and ridiculous action that made us nostalgic for monster movies of the 90s. We decided to take a deeper dive into the Meg and unearth some theories about the film and its potential future. Before we get started though, be sure to click on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything Screen Rant.
It's Megalodon. He's kidding, right?
Jonas was actually crazy. The start of the Meg introduces us to Jason Statham's character Jonas Taylor, a deep-sea rescue diver in the middle of a high-stakes mission 5 years prior to the main plot. A nuclear submarine has become unoperational and the crew are at risk of imminent death. Statham believes a large marine animal is the cause of taking out the submarine and even testifies to his beliefs to a psychologist. When he sees the Megalodon for the first time in the trench, he instantly states this animal was the creature that took out the submarine, an animal he's convinced is a monster that mankind is unaware swims in the ocean. But that's actually impossible. The Megs were kept in the trench by a layer of hydrogen, which essentially caged the sharks in the cavern on the ocean floor. When the research facility submarines breached the cloud, it created a temporary hole, which the two sharks swam through. But this means that the Megs never left the trench during the events of the film's opening, which means that Jonas was essentially making up the story. It's quite possible that the ramming in the submarine was all a fabrication by Jonas. His shrink even thinks that his story doesn't add up and blames Jonas for the souls left behind. So when Jonas sees the massive Meg, he instantly buys into his own crazy story, believing himself to be vindicated. In reality, there is no way that the Meg was the creature responsible for smashing up the nuclear submarine. Perhaps it was a species of whale, but one thing for sure is that it wasn't a megalodon.
One fish did all this?
Ask it yourself.
Rainn Wilson lives? Rainn Wilson played the comedic relief and resident sleaze in the Meg. Billionaire Jack Morris was funding the research lab off the coast of China that was conducting deep-sea dives into the trenches of the ocean. The scientists in question believe they found a cavern on the ocean floor beneath a cloud of hydrogen that goes deeper than the Mariana Trench. So Morris pays for a brilliant team to go and make the discovery. Wilson was also the film's human villain, offering plenty of moments that made us hate his character. So when he met his end at the mouth of the Meg, it was a crowd-pleasing moment. But did he die? When it came time for Wilson's character Jack Morris to bite the dust, we see him clinging for dear life in the ocean on a life support before the giant shark sneaks up behind him and swallows him whole, leaving nothing but his hand, which was left behind after the chomp. Now, this is where things could get interesting. If the shark bit down on the wrist and was able to take the rest of the body into its mouth in one bite, then the Meg likely didn't have to chew its food and just swallowed Wilson whole. A human can stand inside the jaws of a Megalodon with plenty of space to move around, so it's not so crazy to imagine that the shark just ate him whole, not unlike what the whale did to Nemo and Dory. If so, his character could have been left alive in the shark and escaped a few hours later when the shark was ripped open. Is that too out there for a movie like The Meg? What happened to Pippin? One of the cutest minor characters in the film is actually a tiny dog named Pippin. Likely named after the Lord of the Rings hobbit of the same name, Pippin was taking a leisurely swim in the ocean before seeing the giant shark swimming towards him. Upon seeing the dorsal fin breaking through the water, Pippin decides that's enough swimming for one day and makes a very quick doggy paddle for the boat he jumped off of. But it's no use, as the giant shark can easily outswim the tiny dog. Right before he's about to be eaten, the camera cuts, leaving us to assume that the tiny dog was eaten. Of course, the end of the film reveals that the dog did in fact survive his encounter with the shark, but how did this happen? The dog was moments away from being eaten by the giant shark. This theory suggests that the Meg was never actually interested in Pippin due to the size of the dog. The shark likely swam right over the dog, not paying it any attention as it would not have been a satisfying meal. A great white shark has to eat around 66 pounds of food in order to sustain it for around 2 weeks of swimming. So a megalodon is going to have to eat large animals like giant squid and whales on the regular to keep it swimming. A small bite like a dog in the water wouldn't even be crossing that shark's radar. Another possibility is that the shark did temporarily eat the dog, but due to all the rapid movements and jumping around, Pippin was thrown back out of the shark's mouth, sparing the little guy a horrible death. The dog was so tiny that he was never actually chewed on and could have easily escaped the clutches of the Meg's jaws. The Meg's population. Throughout the first half of the Meg, audiences were led to believe that there was one massive fossil shark living in the depths of the ocean. When that shark died halfway through the movie, we instantly knew that this wasn't going to be the end of the mayhem and that a much larger, meaner shark was going to make an appearance. If there was only one shark, we could maybe believe that it was a solitary species and that its biology allows it to be both male and female at the same time, allowing one shark to produce one pup at a time. But as soon as two sharks entered the plot, a whole new string of questions emerged from the ocean depths with it. If there were two Megalodon sharks living at the bottom of the ocean, it's pretty safe to assume that there are likely more than two at any given time. The great white shark, the Meg's closest living cousin, can give birth to 2 to 12 pups, made by one male and one female shark. If we assume that the Megalodon had a similar biology to the great white, then we can safely assume that there are plenty more giant sharks lurking at the bottom of the ocean for Jason Statham to go up against. Perhaps in a sequel, he'll be going up against a small school of sharks as they terrorize the ocean. The question now to ask is which sharks were destroyed, the parents or the youngsters? We think it's safe to assume that the first shark to die was an adolescent, with the second one being much older. But if those sharks had siblings, then we haven't seen the last of the Meg on the big screen, especially considering that the film did surprisingly well at the box office. Jurassic Meg. A wild theory suggests that the Meg may have more in common with the Jurassic Park franchise than with Jaws. We were led to believe that the ancient megalodons living at the bottom of the ocean were in fact the same species that we thought was extinct, and that thanks to a layer of hydrogen at the bottom of the ocean, the giant sharks were able to live on through the millennia in total secret. But what if that wasn't the case? Genetic manipulation shouldn't be anything new to fans of the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World films. While a product of science fiction, this is where scientists take the genetic code of a once extinct life form, like dinosaurs, and recreate the species by filling in the gene gap. In the Jurassic films, the scientists used the DNA found in the blood of fossilized mosquitoes to extract the genetic makeup of a dinosaur. While only a partial sample, the rest of the genome was filled in by using the DNA of frogs. In Jurassic World, genetic research was the driving plot device, as the scientists began making hybrid dinosaurs by splicing various animals together. What if the same thing happened in the Meg? The Meg is already a pretty ridiculous movie, so imagining that a rogue scientific facility accidentally let loose a pair of megalodons into the ocean depths doesn't seem so crazy. By taking the DNA from fossilized megalodon teeth, which are some of the only remnants of the ancient sharks left, and splicing it with great white DNA, maybe the Megs in the film were actually engineered by someone. If so, can we get a Jurassic World vs. the Meg crossover?
Life, finds a way.
Well, those are the theories we found concerning the Meg. Did you enjoy this latest shark film? Will we see more megalodons in a potential sequel, or is the franchise dead in the water? What theories do you have about the film? Let us know in the comments below. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in your playlist every day. Thanks for watching.